Let me tell you about the wildest day the town of Maplewood had ever seen that happened, and it all started with a tiny girl in a giant courtroom chair, holding tight to a scruffy stuffed rabbit and the leash of a police dog almost bigger than she was. The room was buzzing. You could feel the nerves sparking off, every wall cop's on edge, lawyers hunched over their papers, reporters clutching cameras, all of them focused on this kid who looked like she'd been dropped into the middle of a grown-up nightmare. Her name was Lily Anderson, just 3 years old, barely more than a toddler, and somehow the whole legal system had come to a stop, waiting for her to speak. The judge had made sure she was as comfortable as possible, giving her a little chair, letting her bring Max, a retired police dog who never let her out of his sight. To everyone else, Max might have been a pet, but for Lily, he was more than a dog. More than a friend, was her shield, her anchor when the world spun too fast. See, for months, Lily hadn't really talked. Not since she'd been pulled out of that foster home Carl Breener's placed the same guy sitting across the courtroom from her, looking just a little too cool for comfort. On paper, Breener was squeaky clean, a regular at neighborhood events, background checks clear as a whistle, always friendly to social workers. But behind his closed doors, bruises and broken toys started piling up, along with whispers in the night from kids who came and went too fast. The prosecution had evidence: bruises, doctor's notes, broken spirits, but without a direct witness. Everything was on shaky ground. That's why Lily was here. The prosecutor crouched beside her, voice gentle but determined. "Lily, do you know why we're here today?" Lily just nodded, hand clutching Max's leash like her life depended on it. "We want to help you feel safe," he said. And for a moment, she didn't answer. Then, almost like she was working up the courage to jump off the high dive, she looked around, caught sight of Breener, and you could see something hardened behind her big, scared eyes. Let me back up a sec. Outside that courtroom, the whole town was on edge. You had Marie Donovan, Lily's caseworker, pacing the hallway, and Dr. Helen Marks, her therapist, keeping a watchful eye. The judge, sharp as a tack, looked ready to see through any lie thrown her way. Maplewood had always been the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked, where the biggest scandal was someone's Halloween decorations getting knocked over. All that changed the day the whispers about Breener became headlines. Rumors started with teachers noticing bruises, neighbors calling about late-night yelling, and suddenly, the town had to face the ugly truth hiding in plain sight. But as the investigation started picking up steam, everyone knew it hinged on Lily. She'd only just started speaking again in therapy, one halting word at a time, but every word felt like a door opening. Back inside, the prosecutor asked her again what happened, and this time, she pointed straight at Breener and said, clear as day, "That one." I swear, the room froze. Even Max perked up, letting out a soft, warning growl that raised goosebumps up and down my arms. Breener's face cracked for a second, just a flicker, but enough for everyone to notice. Here's the twist: while the courtroom drama unfolded, more people started coming forward. Turns out, Lily wasn't the only kid who'd suffered in silence. Other families, inspired by her bravery, started sharing their stories, and suddenly, it wasn't just about one bad man, it was about a whole system failing kids who needed it most. Defense lawyers tried everything, said Lily was too young, too traumatized, tried to blame playground accidents for the bruises, you name it. But the prosecution was ready. Medical experts showed how the injuries couldn't have happened by accident. Foster workers testified about Breener's shady behavior, the kids who vanished overnight. But it was Lily's words, her tiny voice trembling but sure, that turned the tide. She said, "He yelled. He hurt me. I wanted to hide, but he found me. Max kept me safe." You could feel every heart in that room breaking and mending at the same time. The judge, normally tough as nails, had to wipe her eyes. No piece of evidence could compete with the courage it took for Lily to speak up. The jury heard from everyone: therapists, social workers, neighbors, but Max was always there, head on Lily's lap, his presence more comforting than any words. And when the defense tried to paint Breener as a victim, no one in Maplewood was buying it anymore. After the testimony, the town started to change. Meetings packed with parents and officials led to new rules: more background checks, better training, more support for foster kids. Marie Donovan, the social worker, became a local hero, leading the charge to fix a system that almost let Lily slip through the cracks. As the trial wrapped up, Lily's new parents, Sarah and Michael Anderson, stood by her side. They'd been prepping for months, filling their home with warmth and toys, even welcoming Max as part of the family. "We're grateful for the support," Michael told a reporter, "but Lily's just a little girl. It'll take time." And everyone nodded, because healing doesn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? When the verdict came in guilty on all charges, the courtroom erupted. Some cried, some hugged, and a few just stood in stunned silence, trying to believe that justice had finally been served. Breener looked like all the air had been punched out of him. The judge denied the request for a new trial, and Maplewood breathed out for the first time in months. But the story didn't end there. Donations poured in, support groups sprang up, and kids who'd been too scared to talk started sharing their truths. Schools began teaching teachers how to spot abuse, cops went through extra training, and the whole town took a long, hard look at what it really means to keep children safe. For Lily, each day was a step forward, a little more trust, a little less fear. She played in the park, made up songs about Max, and bit by bit, started to believe that the world wasn't all bad. Max, now officially a family member, kept watch day and night, proof that sometimes the bravest protectors walk on four legs. On the anniversary of the verdict, Maplewood threw a block party, balloons, banners, the whole town turning out to honor the journey from darkness to light. Mayor Carter gave a speech about how one small voice can change everything, and Marie Donovan announced new programs to help kids like Lily. And you know what? It worked. Not just in Maplewood, but in nearby towns. Two laws changed, people paid attention, and more kids got the help they needed. As the sun set on that celebration, Lily, hand in hand with Max, let a bunch of balloons fly, each one for a child who deserved to be heard. Back at home, she curled up by the fire, resting her head on Max's fur, safe at last. Was everything perfect? Of course not. Healing comes in fits and starts, with good days and setbacks. But for the first time, Lily and the town that failed her were finally learning how to move forward. So let me ask you, where does justice begin and end? Is it a verdict, a law, a kid's voice finally breaking the silence? Or is it a community deciding it won't look away ever again? You tell me, because every one of us is part of that answer. If this story hit you, don't just move on, drop a comment. What do you think? Did the town do enough? Is justice ever really finished? Where do you draw the line between forgiveness and accountability? Let's talk about it, because this story is only the beginning.